Oh,
Okay. So, I would really like everyone to take a moment and stop whatever you're doing. And if I came across your feed today, there's a reason. I reached out to someone that used to be my neighbor, and we just did the math. 14 years ago, like very different chapters in both of our lives when we were both like living in Los Angeles for better or for worse. And her name is Dr. Monica Krishnan. And when I met her, like we both had little babies. Like my daughter was like an infant, honestly. I met her and there was just something about her that struck me as a person that I got to know more. And she had really good boundaries, by the way. She like had a family and a husband and other things, and it made me like her more. It made me like you more, knowing that you knew what was of value and important to you. So, how would you introduce yourself? What do you want the world to know about you?
Holly, first of all, it's just so nice to reconnect with you virtually. Yeah, like you said, it's been 14 years, but I feel the same way. There's something about you that struck something in me energetically 14 years ago when I met your whole family. And I'm like, there's something about her. Like we have so much in common. So yeah, so let me introduce myself. My name is Dr. Monica Krishnan. I am a clinical pharmacist. I've been practicing for over 25 years. I'm a huge mental health and grief advocate. I am a mom of two teenagers, ages 16 and 18 now. Woo!
Ooh, I didn't realize she was 18. Oh my God, she's gonna, oh
Yes.
my God,
Oh my goodness.
forget it, forget it, forget it. Let's,
Talking
I
about
never,
the whole,
yeah,
that's a separate
yeah.
conversation.
I never actually show my daughter on social media or really share about her on social media. I'm a
Yeah.
big advocate of privacy.
Yes. Yeah. And so, my two biggest inspirations are my two daughters. And I am a soon to be author of a children's book.
I know I'm really excited to talk about that too, because we have that in common too.
Yes.
So I want to talk to you about karma. Um, so I'm an energy healer and an author and a speaker. Yay, my first TEDx talk is out there now. But I've been through a few things in my life that are probably more than most people know, because I am a big believer that the worst days or moments in your life don't define you. They just inform you when you actually do the healing.
Yeah.
Um, and like, so my joke is before I was born, I was hanging out with God and we were smoking cigarettes and having drinks. I don't smoke, everyone. This is just my joke. So, and I was like, all right, let's take some more on this time. Like, I want to know law. So I want to lose my house in a fire, and then I want to lose my home in an earthquake, different coasts 5 years apart. I want to know what it's like to grow up with an addict as a parent, an alcoholic. Yeah, that'd be good. I would like to know what grief is. And I think miscarriages are something we should just throw in there too, God. Like, and when I would like to clear up karma with some of these relationships that I've had. So bring them, just bring them in. And I'm going to just work my way through all of that. And in doing so, I will be able to show up as a demonstration for other people.
Yes.
Now, like that's my very sarcastic humor there because, I don't know anyone in their right mind who would ask God for that, but I'm pretty sure that when I get back over there in another, 60 years, that I'll be like, oh no, that's exactly what I asked for, right? So, what about you? Because you've suffered some profound loss as
Yeah.
well. So, what do you think that was for you?
So I, like you, believe in karma. I come from a very traditional Hindu background. So spiritually, I do believe in karma and dharma. But it took me a really long time to get to that place. And I think it's because of my spiritual path that I'm on that this was probably part of God's plan for me, you know. So like you said, I suffered one of the biggest losses of my life. My husband Satish passed away in 2011. Um, and he battled cancer for 2 years. Our babies were babies. They
Yeah,
were
I remember.
3 and 5 when he passed away. And you can pretty much say I hit rock bottom. And it was my grief was really complicated because, my husband was dying, but I was also dealing with, my marriage wasn't perfect, Holly. What marriage is, right? Um, I was
We'll do
also
that on another call. We'll do that one too.
we have a lot more calls to do. I was also, dealing with just a complex family that I married into. And then I'm navigating, raising 2 children. So there was just so much grief happening at the same time. And it was grief was happening while he was still alive. And so then once he passed away, then it was like I was kind of in this like, want to say denial stage, the 5 stages of grief. The
Mhm.
first one is like denial. And I was just kind of like, okay, I need to figure out what to do with my life, sell my house, buy a new house, get the kids situated into school. And it's not until probably, I don't know, maybe a year ago, I realized like, huh, I think I'm in my dharma. I'm in my dharma, which, if people don't understand that terminology, it means I'm in my purpose. And what I realized is by doing all this work that I do as a mental health advocate, grief advocate, a writer, um, that I'm turning my pain into purpose. And as a result, getting the message out there to whoever needs to hear it.
I love that. I do. My experience, like, first of all, we never know what's going on with people.
Yes.
And, any sort of illness or even celebrations don't always bring the best out in families,
Yeah.
right? I watch some, like, one of my things is
Mm.
I have been in my marriage for 20 blah, blah, blah years. But we don't have any family that would ever watch our daughter for us to spend any time alone.
Mm.
So I now live in North Carolina. It's pretty common that grandparents come and babysit kids while parents can enjoy some adult time to make sure that connection is still a thing. And I think growing up, I thought that my parents would be able to do that, but it wasn't a possibility.
Yeah.
So like, everything you navigate and what you manage, you're doing what's right and what's best for like your family. And
Yes.
I love that you have the strength of conviction that you knew that. Like, I can't imagine juggling families and managing my own grief and disappointment and all the things that come with it. I was wondering, I always want to know, did you move where you did because you had support in that arena, like in that part of town?
Yes. So I moved where you and I were neighbors,
Hmm.
45 minutes north, where my parents live. And, I bought a house 10 minutes away from their home,
I love it.
and they became my biggest support system. And, I didn't have a lot of support from Satish's side. That's a whole different story.
Mm,
It after 13 years, they're somewhat back in the girls' lives. I went through a lot of trauma with that family. So I'm now navigating, and it's kind of like what you said. It's like this karma is back in my face. Like I have to clear all these relationships from my past because it's needed for my growth and my evolution. Having Satish's family back in the girls' lives, they're not in my life, but they're back in the girls' lives was really, really hard for me. I had to just really dig deep and be like, okay, what is the lesson here? Like, why have they shown up? Like, and I realized I'm like, oh my God, there's still so much trauma and healing that I need to do. That is why it's here.
yeah. Or, I think when I think of you, I find you a demonstration of womanhood that's not seen enough.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna cry. I'm a crier. I'm like honestly welling up. Because I don't know all the details, but I know you did it.
Yeah.
Right? Like my husband always says I have another gear. I have the fuck with me, honestly, gear, which is when something awful happens, you want me there because I have been through it and
Yes.
I know what it needs. And I'm like, I can move a house in a day
Yes.
because I've had to.
Yes.
I've had no
Yeah.
choice but to
Yeah.
pack up, move, and I know what I need. And then 3 weeks later is usually when I collapse.
Yeah.
Like all that adrenaline for me, like leaves and goes. Um, like with my demonstration of boundaries for my daughters, I didn't grow up knowing really what those were for all sorts of reasons, right? But um her relationship with my father is weird because he doesn't ever see her
Hmm.
because of his girlfriend,
Mm.
right? And I didn't like how she behaved towards me
Mm.
in front of my child, and I was like, that's I'm not going to repeat that pattern.
Yeah.
And so, like, if you want to see me, the door is always open. Really, all she has to do is apologize for screaming at me and saying awful things to me in front of my
Yeah.
daughter, who was little at the time. I was like, that's a no, 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 right? So, how much do you let someone in your life, how much of the dream of who you wish they were,
Yes.
do you grieve over and over again, even when you think you're okay with it, you're like, oh, it could be better. And then watching out for traits. And I always have conversations around the traits. If this makes you uncomfortable, you need to recognize that. And it's always okay to step away.
Yes. I love that.
But like, that's a mental health thing,
It
right?
is.
Because so, like, okay, so you're also a pharmacist. So I find mental health to be a taboo subject in many different cultures, and like how much medicine can you take, and what insurances will allow it or not. Like I have to tell you, I've run across this like with
Yeah.
myself and other people. So for you, like in your family, and when you were like going through it, what did you turn to help you move through the feelings? Because unless you feel them, you can't heal them.
Absolutely. Great question. So I battled high functioning depression for 7 years.
Mm,
And for people who don't know what high functioning depression is, it's basically you look all put together and you can't even tell that the person is depressed. And so I would show up, with my hair done, my pink lipstick, my glam, with my white coat, show up at work, and people wouldn't really understand that when I would come home, wipe all that stuff off, I would be just literally crumbling and just crying and just it's like day-to-day survival. So it took me about a year to really realize that I was struggling because my first year after he passed away was I was just so focused on the children and moving into a new home and getting them settled into grief therapy. But about a year later, I literally walked into my doctor's office and I'm like, I feel like I'm stuck. I just can't. I'm I'm just numb, stuck, and I just feel like I'm just surviving day to day. I need help. And, I put a lot of self-stigma on me, Holly. Being a
mm,
pharmacist, I'm like, I don't know if I need that medication. I don't even know if I need Lexapro. And then finally, one day, I walked into the doctor's office and I'm like, I think I need to be on medication because I just can't get over this feeling. And so I went on a low dose of an antidepressant called Lexapro. I was on it for about 4 years. And then I started to feel pockets of sunshine. I
mm,
was like, I'm starting to feel alive again. I feel good. So then I started using, that was part of my toolbox. I was in grief therapy, regular therapy. I would exercise. I started doing a lot of, you know, uh, self-help books. I tried to listen to inspiring podcasts, but it was just I struggled with that. So I just kind of navigated the 7 years until 2018 where I felt a shift. I felt a shift, and that's when I began working as a mental health advocate. And I'm like, oh my God, like people are reaching out to me to ask them, how did you work? Like, I'll give you an example. Someone called me up and said, hey, I lost my husband. Um, can I talk to you? And I never thought, Holly, that I would ever be that
mm.
person for someone who's going through what I went through, and I'm just kind of listening to them and giving them guidance. Um, And that's when I started publicly doing podcast episodes and guest appearances on different platforms in 2018, and that's when things shifted for me.
I love it. And then, hey, right around the corner was COVID. So how fun was that?
I
That's
know.
that's so crazy. Okay, so now I know where the title of Pockets of Sunshine come
Yeah.
from. Why don't you tell me what inspired you to write that?
So Finding Pockets of Sunshine is this beautiful book that I manifested in a meditation. I know you recently did a TEDx talk, like so excited for you, but
Thanks.
I was working with a TEDx coach 2 years ago, and during the session, I realized that I think I want to write a children's book. And so we shifted gears and we started, getting a creative team together, the illustrator, the writer, the editor, and it just started to flow out of me. And, for me, it was like when I was looking for children's book for my children, I couldn't find anything that I could relate to,
Mm,
especially as a South Asian woman. So I was like, okay, well, and also to start talking about mental health at a young age. I couldn't really talk about like, sadness and this and that because I was dealing with my own grief. So, when you're dealing with your own grief and then you're trying to navigate your children's grief, it was really hard. So I thought to myself, I need to come up with a book that's not, I mean, it's geared towards South Asian families, but this book is universal. It's for all families, all cultures, all backgrounds. And it's about an 8-year-old girl who loses her dad and, goes through the 5 stages of grief and then finds her way to her new normal and finds pockets of sunshine along her journey of healing.
I
So this
love
book
it.
is to inspire, to give hope, to normalize talking about mental health, at a young age because it's much needed. So this way, by the time they become, adolescents or teenagers, it's normal to talk about mental health.
Right. So not like how I grew up at all, right? It
Me
was more of
too.
like, just go, just deal with it. Just deal with it. And I don't even think our parents meant anything bad by it. It's just a very different environment.
Absolutely.
So when your character is 8 years old and because your daughters did lose their father at such a young age, what kind of language do you share? So I often work with people who talk to their children as if they're adults. And I was like, stop. That's a child. And your anxiety, you're actually just projecting it on them. No,
Oh,
I'm not a therapist. I'm not a licensed therapist. I like to make sure people know that. But like there is, with all of my years of experience in doing and feeling what I am able to do and feel, there really is an importance in giving children language and the space to own their own feelings without a parent, well-meaning, defining it for them. So did you come across like words that you found more helpful than others?
yeah, we talked about the different emotions like, anger and sadness and, they would always say this just isn't fair. Like why did we lose our dad and so and so has a dad. My children did a lot of healing through art therapy.
Mm.
And they did that with a grief center. So they would draw out their feelings, because they were little. They were only 3 and 5. Um, in fact, they have no memory of their dad.
I didn't want to ask that. I like that
Yeah.
is the kind of question I
They
like
had
to leave for someone else if they want to approach it or
no
not, right?
memory. He's just this fragment,
Mm.
imagination, pictures, they have pictures in their rooms. They know, what he did, good person, all the work that he did, how loving of a father he was. Um, but they have no, real memory. So their grief isn't the same as mine, where I'm actually grieving the actual person. Their grief is this like unknown grief, Holly, where like I'm supposed to have a dad, but I don't have a dad.
It's a little bit of a fantasy, right? A little
Yes.
bit, right? Because like I should have this and he would have been like that.
Yes.
Well, we don't really know that,
We don't
but
know
I'm
that.
not going to take that fantasy away from you,
Yeah.
right?
Um, and so because my grief was so complicated, and my marriage was so complicated that there were times where we didn't really talk much about it. And it was just more helping them navigate, putting them in, therapy, therapy groups. They were in therapy for several years. So I kind of let, because I was dealing with my own struggles, that I kind of let the professionals help
Hmm.
my kids. Because in the beginning, I just couldn't.
No, it makes sense. Okay, so how did all of that experience shape how you view relationships now?
I know that, you know, I've realized when I hit rock bottom, who was really there for me
Mm.
and who wasn't.
Oh yeah, I
Like
know
I
that one.
I have friends who are like, "Oh, I can't handle her. Like I can't handle her
Hmm.
grief." And you know what? To be fair, a lot of people don't know how to navigate someone who's depressed. But when it's really close friends or certain family members, you're like, "Where were you?" Like all of a sudden you want to come back into my life after 12 years or 13 years. Like the kids are grown, they're adults, like, where have you been when I really needed you? You
Yeah.
know? And so, now as I turn 50, I'm turning 50 this year, I'm like, "I don't give a F about this person, this person, because,
Hmm.
girl, I don't even know how much time I have left on earth, and I'm not gonna waste any more of my time trying to be a people pleaser." I spent
Yeah.
a lot of time, Holly, being a people pleaser as a young wife.
Hmm.
Growing up, I wanna always please my parents, please my just friends, and I'm just like, it's exhausting. It is so exhausting to be a people
It
pleaser.
is. It
So I have finally,
is.
like, my new mantra is like, "It's about Monica now. It's about Monica now."
That's what I mean, but, like, so my thing is, like, also, like, culturally, I'm sure there are rules and and norms,
Yes,
right? In how grief is supposed to be or how long or if you should ever be with anyone. I mean, they're in every culture, you can
yes,
find them. I've kind of, like I kind of actually sometimes find that fascinating, like what is, but what do you want now? Because your girls are older. I
yeah,
don't know. Like, have you dated? Do you want
yes,
to date? Would you, knowing what you know about marriage, is that even like, I
yeah,
think serial monogamy, like I'm 55, baby, let's bring it, right? So
girl.
I'm married forever. It's whatever. But I'm just saying my husband and I are excruciatingly honest,
Yeah,
right? And we often say we're still together because we both didn't want to separate at the same time, right? Because a 20 plus year marriage, you go up and down. And
yes,
I like to tell people you don't like to play with the same toys when you're 8 that you did at 4. So
yeah,
as you mature as an individual, I hope that you still explore the possibilities of your life and
yeah,
what you want to do and how you want to do it. And my husband and I have very different ideas of what we like to do. He likes doing the same thing over and over and over again. And I'm
yeah,
like, peace out. I want to go where I don't know anything. And that is anxiety producing for
yes,
him. That's not fun. He doesn't know what and I'm like, no, like, which is why now I take some trips alone,
yeah,
and it's not because I don't love you, but it's because that's what I need.
yes, yeah.
So
So,
what about the future, like romance stuff for you? Like,
oh my
is
God,
that
I'm excited for what's to come. I've played around with some dating apps.
Mhm.
I've gone on dates. I have um so it's what's interesting is I started dating apps probably 6 years ago, and my oldest daughter Anjali had a hard time with it. She had a hard time,
Mhm.
and it wasn't like I was replacing her dad. It was more like she didn't want to share mom.
Mhm.
And then just life just got so busy, like just working and raising 2 kids and running a house where I was just like, I've been through so much trauma that I just don't have it in me right now to take on another relationship. And I realized that I've had so much inner healing that needed to be done before I invite
Mm.
that energy of love back into my life, romantic love. But yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready to explore, my friends like, they have their eyes out. They're like, "Okay, we're looking out for the right guy," and I really feel like energetically, like, when the time is right, it's gonna happen.
Oh, I
Um,
think so too.
I want someone now I'm very, very choosy of what I want. To answer your question, do I wanna get remarried? I don't know. Do I wanna deal with, toxic in-laws or difficult families? No. Um I really want someone at this point in my life where it's just we're if he's got kids, we're both done raising children, and it's
Mhm.
about me and him now. Me and him growing and evolving together, I've realized I don't need a man to complete me. I've been
Mhm.
on my own for 13 years and I've done it. I need a partner to continue to evolve with, learn from, someone who motivates me, I motivate him. We grow together spiritually. Um, and just have fun, you know?
Yeah, some fun for sure. Absolutely. I think I like that. I think okay, so let's stick with the mental health thing. What if you know that he also suffers from like some grief and or like depression? Is
Yeah,
that something that would be triggering for you or is that something that you have more compassion for at this stage?
probably more compassion
Mm.
because, I think we all have continuous healing we have to do. I've realized that you think you're healed and then something happens and you're like, there goes that onion again.
The
Like,
damn
oh, that
onions.
damn onion. There's that trauma that's embedded down there. I think I have more compassion. I have more compassion for someone who is dealing with mental health, with grief, trauma healing. Um, yeah,
Okay, so I know that you discussed, and I really appreciate you actually sharing what depression feels like you. For me, it sneaks. It's sneaky. It's more of I'm a little less focused and a little more tired. But when depression or like sad episodes kind of come into my life, what happens is I disassociate. My introvert like I'm an expressive introvert, so I look like an extrovert, but honestly, people make me tired. So like I just retreat, except
yeah,
I retreat on a whole other level. And I wish that people would discuss more of what depression looks like. It's not always, you're not weeping.
yeah,
You're just like, you can't touch
yeah,
what used to be there. Like it just doesn't feel the same. Your feelings don't aren't like I like to say like they the technicolor of my emotions kind of fade
yeah,
and I don't care. So I think if anyone who's listening or watching is thinking about that, we all have bad days. I'm a big believer of you shouldn't force happiness. Every day isn't a great day today. Like I've been honestly contemplative. I've done a lot of longhand processing like what is it that I want, what is the challenges that I want to take on and what don't I anymore,
yeah,
right? This awesome middle-aged game is like nah, I'm done with that. I'm done,
yeah.
I'm good. But what do I want to make space for and how do I want to do that? So I like that you are always giving voice to that. Do you think depression is hereditary?
I think some mental health um diagnoses can be hereditary. Um, when we look clinically, depression is just a lack of certain neurotransmitters in your brain, your, dopamine and your norepinephrine and your serotonin. And so there's a chemical imbalance that's happening But I really believe that, and one of my favorite physicians, his name is Dr. Gabor Mate, who does a lot of work on trauma and depression. Something has happened to that person to push them into depression. Something
Mm,
has happened. Do we go all the way back to childhood? Was there some childhood trauma? Was it something during their high school days? Was it something like, me and you, like for me, it was when I became an adult. And so there's many phases of depression, right? Like what your face depression looks like is very different than my face of depression, our histories. Um, so I think that there could be a little bit that's, associated with, being hereditary, but I also think that a big factor is what has happened to you? What pushed you into that depression?
okay, so to wrap it up, because I know people don't like to watch too long. So, like, what made you actually ask for help?
I just didn't like the feeling of being stuck. I
Mm.
was numb. And that's not who Monica is. Monica at her true core essence, when you take off all the labels, Monica at her true essence is a silly little girl who's mischievous, who's funny, who is full of life, who likes to jump on leaves. And I'm just like, God, like I just wanted this dark cloud that was over my head to just have a little bit of sunshine on it. And like you talked about, like you're not supposed to feel happy all the time. That's not what life is.
Mm-mm.
Life is feeling all the emotions, right? And the people have this misconception that you're supposed to be happy all the time, then you know what? You have a rude awakening coming because that's not what life is.
Yeah, it's okay. I think that's what I like to also help people with. I was like, can we talk about that we're teaching our children that everything is done for them or so easy? Like, I think it's okay to let your children struggle.
Yes.
Like,
That's
let
what
them
I'm talking about.
fail. They need to learn that they can survive it. That's like a whole, but we'll do that on another one because, like, that's
Yeah.
another thing I see a lot of. I was like, we can get through the hard times. Sometimes it takes a little longer. Sometimes it just takes inspiration of like seeing other people made it through too. Sometimes seeing someone else make it through can make you mad. Sometimes you need to be mad to get motivated. All of those things are fine. Just don't be stuck.
Yeah.
Don't be stuck.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for having this conversation with me. Oh my God, you're just so beautiful.
Aw,
Um,
Holly.
your book, wait, okay, so your book's coming out in November.
Yes.
So I'll put whatever in the comments below so they can find you and make sure that you get to this book as well and share it with your friends.
Thank
And
you.
thank you so much.
I'm so excited to come back on your show in November once the book is out. And my main social media is Dr. Monica PharmD on Instagram.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thanks, Holly.